What's up, guys? It's Wednesday night. We got the crew here, Pat Crane, Ben Gretsch, and I feel like we shouldn't even bury the lead. We are literally on the clock right now in an FFPC $35 best ball league that we all decided to hop into. We saw some other industry guys doing it, and we said, we got to get our fix. Pat was G-chatting me about random rookies incoming in the league that I'd never heard about.
They're not random. They're literally the best at each position. The random repeat.
Pat, the wide receiver you told me about has not been in the conversation of the people that they're talking about on Twitter. I'll just say that.
Rashod Bateman, I believe, has been mentioned on Twitter, Pete.
Not in my corners of Twitter.
Well, you're on Top Shot Twitter these days, so maybe come back over to football for a bit.
Okay, my bad. Ben, are you a big Rashod Bateman fan?
I've definitely heard the name since last offseason. He's been around for sure.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry to upset the DraftNet community. Let me get the screen share here to show the draft board so far, and we can kind of talk through this decision. So it is best ball slim. So it's an 18 rounds. And our buddy Davis is in this draft. And we got Chris G in the chat. He's also in this draft. So we got Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry. Davis takes Jonathan Taylor at 4. We get the FFPC tight end premium hitting with Travis Kelce. Then Alvin Kamara. I have a feeling we might take a wide receiver, guys.
I'm giving absolutely zero thought, but I love that Davis took Jonathan Taylor at 4th overall. That's my initial response.
My feeling is to take George Kittle.
Ooh.
And partly because of the time of year that we're drafting, where we don't know a lot of stuff, and that's going to be especially hard, I think, to get tight end picks correct later. We know that having an elite tight end has been a real advantage of the last few years. When Kittle did play this season, he was absolutely fantastic. He could have the type of season we just saw from Kelce if he stays healthy next year. There's a lot of opportunity costs passing up on Adams, who's coming off a historic season, but given that it's best ball, I think we can probably make up those wide receiver points a little bit. The tight end points can be harder to make up.
I like that a lot.
Where did he go in that other draft, Pat?
He went at the 111.
Sorry, Sam, I was slow putting the board up, but Kelsey's already gone. So we cannot take Kelce. I assume all of us would have. I would have taken
Kelce.
Yeah.
I think there's a conversation about whether Waller should be the number 2 tight end over Kittle this year, but I think I would side with Kittle right now, but I think that'll happen over the course of the year. Waller's going to be in those two, I think.
I think that's fair. I mean, what Waller's done over the last 2 seasons has been elite.
He's also just really good at football. That's why we like Kittle, but Waller's also, at this point, extremely efficient, very, very good. It's what he's done, but I don't know. Then he's on their level, I think, as a player.
Then where did Waller go in that other draft, Pat?
Waller went at the 203.
Okay. That's interesting because I was going to say that if Waller was, say, going later, that would maybe be an argument to sit on him if you think, like Ben said, he could be in the conversation for the number 2. Then you get a wide receiver here. You come back and get Waller in the 2nd, but he might not be there based on that ADP.
Yeah, if you're at 111, and then you can just say, I'll let the guy at 12 choose the tight end, and I'll get the other one. You can take the wide receiver. But we're probably not getting either guy. I still prefer Kittle over Waller. I mean, Kittle, he led the league in yards per wait, I've got this just on tight ends, so I don't want to. But he led all tight ends in yards per route run. He just didn't play enough. And only Devonta Adams was better in yards per route run.
I really liked your point about the tight end position of when we're drafting, because so many guys obviously Logan Thomas is the one that's coming to mind for me. He's a guy I was actually touting in the offseason and saying to draft at the end of deep tight end premium leagues, and had him in some dynasty leagues. But there's a lot of guys that this time last year we thought would be the tight ends for 2020. Jay Sternberger comes to mind. A lot of people were in early draft, people were taking him in the 6th, 8th round. He was a top 10 tight end for some people. Maybe not the 6th or 8th round, but certainly I think by the 10th, he was in consideration in some drafts early on. Like Hawkinson and Fant were this past year were guys that were pretty easy to project out, but there's not a lot of dudes when you look at the tops of the tight end. Like Robert Tanyan came out of nowhere. He finished as tight end 3 this year. Gronk came back. It's just a position where role matters so much. Logan Thomas is another one. Jimmy Graham, I don't think anyone would have liked this time last year. He winds up in Chicago and scores 8 touchdowns. It's a tough position to sort of know what you're going to like or what you're going to want. And anyway, I like the idea of going after it.
Hunter Henry's a free agent, and you just got it's a fair amount of stuff. Zach Ertz, who knows where he's going to be. So some of these guys, I'm looking, Hunter Henry went in the 8th round of this draft that Davis did, Leone and Justin also in this draft. Zach Ertz went in the 10th. So you start pretty quickly to be you either have to pay up for Hawkinson, who went in the 5th, or Goddard, who went in the 7th, Fant, who went in the 7th, or you're taking real throws.
Who are the receivers that went in the 5th and the 7th? Who are some names there's got to be some Cortland Suttons?
Where are those wide receivers going? When we were running through all those rookie wide receivers we loved in every range, is Chase Claypool in the 5th?
Ayuk went in the 5th, in the 6th. Chenault went in the 8th, but to Davis, so it might be a little inflated. I'm looking for Claypool. Claypool went in the 5th. Okay, Jamar Chase went in the 5th.
Wow.
Incoming rookie. Yeah.
Where did Sutton go?
Sutton may not. Sutton went in the 5th.
Okay.
Pat, do you have a link to that draft board? I should get it pulled up.
Yeah. Let's
it'd be interesting to look at that. So my first thought when we said we were doing this was I've done some of these before early on. Historically what I've found looking back at them is that everyone's going to have big misses. And one of the things I did, way back when, one of the things I did was go after some pass catching running backs and some slot receivers that I thought had pretty clear defined roles. I remember back in the day, I took a Chris Thompson pick or Cole Beasley pick, guys like that I thought were going to be getting points in the season because you're so far out. And it seems like a low upside move, but there's going to be room and time to make speculative picks. Rookies are probably going to go too late. It sounds like some are going relatively high here, but I remember a really long time ago, I remember getting Zeke in the 5th in one of these and being stoked about that. In a January draft and being stoked about it later on. A super early, my first draft of the year. It's I got Zeke in the 5th round in his rookie year. And the point I'm making is it's easy to make speculative picks, I think, later. But the mistake you can make early is to go after guys that are uncertain. Aaron Jones might be in the discussion from a points perspective right now, but we don't know where he's going to be playing, right? He's a free agent. So I don't think there's any way we should be considering him this high.
Or guys that have very uncertain futures in terms of their role. James Robinson is a very risky pick right now. They've got a new coaching staff. He's basically built on just having the entire backfield to himself. That may not be the case going forward. Any of these veteran running backs that have the potential to get, a rookie coming in and taking a lot of work from them are really risky picks.
And people might think that's crazy about James Robinson. I would argue that 2 weeks ago, we would have said that was crazy about Jalen Hurts. He looked like a top 10 quarterback for next year. And then they fired Doug Peterson and they're saying they want to keep Wentz. And now we're oh, wait, Jalen Hurts isn't even going to be a starter next year. Cool.
And is it the historical data just on those free agent running backs that come in and have the pop seasons? Their longevity just doesn't have a good track record as far as holding their ADP value, right?
Yeah. I mean, you got the Arian Foster would be the best case scenario, but you also got guys like Jordan Howard, who was a 5th round pick, and he had a little bit of a run and then he kind of goes away. I kind of think Robinson sort of fits in that mold where what he did was awesome from a fantasy perspective, but so much of it was just that he got all the snaps. And
there's only room to go down from there. The offense can get better, but there's only room to go down. Philip Lindsay's another example who has still been very good. James Robinson can still be good, but not have the backfield to himself, is Pat's point.
Yes.
James Robinson was good. Philip Lindsay was good. He remained good, but he's had to split work throughout his career as they've gone on. Teams don't just turn backfields over to undrafted rookies who have one big year. It could happen, but it's not common. I think they'll add somebody in the draft probably or in free agency.
Yeah, and Lindsay was awesome as a rookie and still is quite talented, but they were like, we'll bring in Melvin Gordon for who knows why, but it happened. Like teams add, especially when there's coaching changes. Like you just need to be aware that if James Robinson gets a guy added to his backfield that's got decent talent, it's going to really, really hurt his fantasy value. It doesn't mean that I don't think James Robinson can play. It's just that as an undrafted free agent, he really has no moat on this workhorse role.
Is it me or let me know the context of these rookies? Like Jamar Chase and Kyle Pitts seem like very high to me.
Jamar Chase, like still waiting on, the combine or, the version of the combine pro day thing that we're going to get this year to like fully check these guys out. And then also draft position. But with Jamar Chase, we know he's going to be a very high draft pick. He looks at least as good as like CeeDee Lamb and, Justin Jefferson looked as prospects last year. But he has a chance.
8th round picks.
Yeah, he has a chance, I think, to be like an Amari Cooper type of prospect.
Mm-hmm.
So he is a very, very strong prospect. I mean, his yards per route run in 2019 was off the charts. Not only was it off the charts, just like, from a raw basis, a very high number, but he was far away ahead of the other people on that LSU team, including Justin Jefferson, who we now know is a star at the NFL level. So he was smashing even compared to Justin Jefferson. I just think he's very, very, very safe to be a quality NFL player.
504 for rookie redraft league. Still, like I agree with all that. I hear all that. I still think that I agree with Pete's point that that's early. I would take Courtland Sutton over him in a heartbeat. Courtland Sutton tore his ACL. He's not dead. Like, do you guys remember how good Courtland Sutton was? We were taking him in the 4th round last year.
Yeah.
I think Courtland Sutton's going to be great next year. In his 3rd year.
I actually don't really want to take Chase quite that high.
Yeah.
Given some of the other options there, but I mean, that's not a bad pick there.
All right. Yeah. To me, it feels, again, I don't know.
And Pitts. Talk a little bit about Pitts, though, because he's expected to be like the best tight end prospect in a long time.
And at least with Pitts, you're getting the 1.5 premium here. But Pat, you were selling me that he basically looks like he could be one of the better wide receivers in this class without the positional designation.
Yeah. Like if you just look at his numbers and then like just treat him as a wide receiver and kind of plug him into what I look at, he is, he looks like maybe a Brandon Ayuk type of level prospect, a little bit. Maybe, I mean, he looks like probably a better prospect than Jalen Waddle, who's a highly regarded rookie this year. However, the thing with Pitts is that we've only seen one rookie tight end pop off for an elite FFPC season, 200 plus points. It was Evan Ingram, who, is basically like kind of a wide receiver type of role. And I hope that's how Pitts is used as a rookie, but it's not typical that we see these rookie tight ends make a huge impact. So be cognizant of that.
I just Googled a mock draft and Chris Trapasso at my old stomping ground, CBS, who's a sharp guy. He's mocking him to the Patriots at 15 in the 1st round. So, pretty good fit there, right? Right, Pete?
Let's see. I do actually have to renew. What is
this down?
I don't even remember the URL. Great fit.
Great fit Patriots, I think.
Yeah. You're not seeing my email pop up. It's saying your registration needs to be renewed. Here we go. All right, we're gonna try Kyle Pitts. See if the algo is still working. This guy is such a great fit for the Pats. It's hard to believe he didn't go to Rutgers.
That is a very good one for this specific. This site. It just nails it.
And, some of them hold up. Some of them I should probably go in and update, and I will never do that. Anyways, yeah. Keep talking Kyle Pitts because he seems exciting.
He's very excited. Like from a dynasty perspective, he's someone to get really excited about, the rare tight end where you actually do want to spend like a mid-first on him. But from a redraft perspective, from a best ball perspective, I'm a little bit below where he went here. He went with the 704. He went ahead of Noah Fant. I don't like that. I'd rather have Noah Fant going into his 3rd year than Kyle Pitts as a rookie, even though Kyle Pitts is a better prospect than Noah Fant was.
I bet you would still take him over Mike Gesicki, though, right? Pat, noted Gesicki hater.
Oh, in a fucking heartbeat. No, I would take him over Mike Gesicki. He's not far off where I think fair value is, but it's still a little bit pricey there.
All right, so we can circle back to this stuff, but we should make our pick just so we can keep this draft moving along. Maybe we'd happen to get a second pick on the show. So just looking at the ADP, the only person we are passing up that would have already gone would be Saquon. Looks like Noah took him at the 7th pick. And then obviously,
I don't think he would be a bad pick here. He's going to go higher than this come draft season, like come August. I don't think he goes
that's
7.
probably right. That's probably right.
I don't think he goes 7 in August. But I'm also very fine with Kittle.
Yeah, I mean, if Kittle, and this is a big if Kittle has the season that Kelsey had this year, it's an absolute smash at this pick.
Yeah, and Kittle was basically on pace for that type of season, but he just didn't play. He only played 8 games.
Motherfucking Mackey Award winner. Definitely should probably be taking those. Although we have some people asking us to take Diggs.
I like that. I thought about it. Who's locked into a great role next year? It's hard to argue Stephon Diggs is not in a perfect spot for next year again.
Yeah, I was hoping to get like the 110 so we could take Diggs.
Yeah. They're going to keep throwing at a high rate. They're forward thinking, early down pass rate. Allen's looked better. He's still going to be in Buffalo. There's no questions. They're not going to add any receivers. They drafted 2 last year. There's no questions here. And in fact, they're probably going to cut John Brown, right, Pat?
He's a pretty strong cut candidate.
And then probably go Diggs, Gabe Davis, and Beasley is sort of my expectation. So Diggs is a fun argument to make for number 1. I'd probably still take Devonta Adams, but he's a fun argument to make for top receiver off the board.
Yeah, you don't need much to twist our arms into taking Diggs, but maybe not here. All right, so are we going to stick with Kittle, guys? Are we on that?
That's where I'm at, but if you guys prefer Barkley or Adams, I'm open.
Well,
I like it.
Here's the thing. It's fucking January 20th, and I don't really have strong opinions about this stuff.
Yeah. So the argument for Saquon would be this. Pat made a good point about getting tight end value later, but when we were looking at the other board, there are some guys, Fant, Gesicki, not Gesicki because Pat will veto it, but Fant or whoever that you could get in the mid rounds. Running back is a similar position where it gets really hard. I think it's hard to do 0 RB early in the offseason because you have to make some pretty strong bets. I mean, this is why, like in Dynasty, you want to trade away questionable running backs at this point if you can, because you don't know what teams are going to do. In some startups last offseason, I was targeting Darrell Henderson heavily. I didn't think the Rams would take a running back in the draft since they were eating so much dead money from Gurley. Turns out they did take a running back who happens to be very good. Kerryon Johnson's another one. I didn't know if the Lions would do that because I feel like they had more needs. Well, they took one who's also very good. So, it can be tough to fill running backs later. Going one elite running back, I think, is valuable. And Saquon's going to come back and be the clear back for the Giants, right? So that would be the case I would make for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think going some kind of modified 0 running back or trying to do like a hyper fragile strategy early on does make a lot of sense because of all the points that Ben just said. I wonder if we can get a running back in the 2nd round. This would end up being not a very typical draft, but again, it's January 20th, where if we get a running back in the 2nd, then we can maybe fill in later with some running backs that we're taking more flyers on, but we have a bet early on that we feel pretty safe about.
Go back to our board. Did that say too early running back at number 10? Oh, too early best ball, early drafting. Okay. I thought it said too early running back. I thought he was tipping his strategy.
That's yeah. Although if someone's Bills Mafia passing on Stephon Diggs there, I mean, pretty suspect, I would say. All right. Should we pull the trigger on Kittle?
Yeah,
let's do it.
All right. We'll add Kittle there. And then maybe if everyone is on the clock, we know we got our guy, Chris G, at the turn trying to goad us into taking Saquon. He's all yours, Chris. He's all yours. Hopefully we get another pick.
He's hoping to get Kittle or Waller at the turn, obviously.
Yeah, he's trying to, throw us off the scent. What is your guys' thoughts on I mean, Justin Jefferson's a stud. Is he 4th pick of the 2nd round stud?
I mean, I guess for me, like he probably goes. He's probably closer to like where AJ Brown was going.
And this is exactly what what happened to AJ Brown. He went in the late 1st in some of the earliest drafts last offseason. He went like 112, 201, 204, and then he settled in the 4th round. I was the exact comp I was going to make, Pat. Great point. Like actually, you have a highly efficient rookie year like that, very, very strong rookie year. Jefferson's was better, but we've also talked on the show about how he broke rookie records, but also the league has gotten more pass friendly. You have to put it in the context of percentage of whatever team passing volume or whatever. He broke Randy Moss's record, and I said maybe a month or so ago on the show, there's no way he had a better rookie year than Randy Moss, and people are still saying that he had a better year than Randy. Okay, he had more yards than Randy Moss, but completely different environment. 25 years ago, completely different passing environment in the NFL.
Gretch, I feel like we also need to get your reaction. AJ Brown, surgery on both of his knees, playing through that all year.
I didn't even hear that. I've been.
You didn't see that? Oh, wow. I thought you would have been on top of that. Yeah, he had it seemed pretty bad what he was playing through this season.
Well, that just goes to show you, because everyone wanted to regress his efficiency last year. He still had over 10 yards per target, was still a monster.
He's the best.
He's been tweeting a lot. Thought he had a photo.
What kind of surgery?
It was on his knees.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of him having surgery on both knees after a second season, for a long-term thing. That's not great.
So AJ Brown is currently live on Instagram from the hospital. Looks to be post-op. He says he had surgery on both his knees. They told me I was done for the year in week 2. I played all year. I made the Pro Bowl.
That's pretty awesome.
I'm really embarrassed I did that. He says he went live on Instagram, probably hopped up on pain meds. Oh my God.
Oh.
Here, hang on. Let me
he had a note that he was really embarrassed he did that. That's super funny.
That's really funny.
Here, I can actually do the audio on this. 1 second.
Dude, what a goat. Man. Oh.
Let's hear what he said here. I'm curious.
No talk, bro. Real talk. I'm gonna be the best receiver in the NFL, bro.
Yeah. Look, it's kind of cold, but I'm want to have ice. You can.
Oh, it's really cold.
You want these or want graham crackers?
I really want some food.
So you'll be out of here soon.
Okay.
I'm with you today. Who's driving along?
Damn, that coke.
It's probably because your throat's irritated from that tube going down your throat.
Y'all put a tube down my throat.
Yeah, you want to put to sleep. How else you gonna breathe in surgery? Knocked out.
This is a grown ass man.
Already.
Medicine, what medicine I'm gonna use?
Pain medicine, nausea medicine. But who's your ride?
My dad.
Is he here?
Yeah.
Do you want him up here?
Nah, he gonna record me.
Yeah. All right, if you have the controller, if you need me,
but guys,
hit that red button, okay?
Okay.
I'll be back in a minute.
Guys. Jerry Henry in the flesh.
What?
King Henry. But yeah, look.
I'm gonna go statistical, so you can just go to sleep now.
I worked so hard all year. Nobody knew. They told me I was done for the year, like in week 2. Told me I was done for the year, like week 2, right? I played all year. I ain't no making a Pro Bowl. Didn't know how I was gonna do it. I did it.
That's badass.
Okay, but look at his other tweet. Now I kind of feel bad laughing about it because he said even though it was funny to many, I didn't find it funny. So I retract all my laughs. AJ, I'm on your side.
No, we can laugh that he's hopped up on pain meds while live streaming.
Yeah.
What a goat, though. I mean, playing through that and, putting up over 10 yards per target. That was part of the point I made in a big article I wrote about him this offseason was like his combination of downfield average depth of target, and that did come down a little bit, and it was probably expected to. I talked about that. But that plus his yards after the catch ability is super rare. It's something that like I created a database as far back as we have air yards, and putting like a yak filter and an ADOT filter, so, because there's more yards after catch on shorter targets, obviously. So an ADOT filter and a yak filter and something else, a total targets filter, I think was the only other one. You wound up with a cohort of like 15 players, and not just rookies, players. And it was all elite guys. There was no non-elite players in it. It was Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones, Deshaun Jackson's on that list for sure. There's another guy who's great at downfield and yak, but he was very good in his prime.
Yeah, he was.
These are their best seasons. Some of these guys did it a couple of times in their whole career, what A.J. Brown did in his rookie year. And he may have done it again. The exact same thing.
I was about to ask if he did.
I don't know if he had a high enough ADOT this year to fit the cohort that I had, but this guy is a unique talent. He's going to be very good.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully. I didn't get to read any more about what kind of recovery period they're anticipating, but hopefully he's in good shape. It sounds like lesser players would have thrown in the towel and had that surgery earlier. That's for sure. All right, let's go back to this draft board here. There's some other interesting things, I think, here.
The reason I went on that Brown tangent as well is like, when we get into projection season and everything, people want to regress efficiency, and yards per target is the one that people like to look at. All those players I just mentioned have maintained high efficiency because that's basically what yards per target is. It's the depth of the target and it's your ability to generate after the catch, right? And so Brown is a guy I actually expect will maintain higher than projectable efficiency most seasons throughout his career. If you go back, you look at Terrell Owens, you look at Julio Jones, those guys did that consistently in their prime. So anyway, something to keep in mind when you're looking at people knocking A.J. Brown again this offseason.
What else stands out to you guys here as far as ADPs? Like two that just jumped out to me. I mean, Mike Evans has been this year. He was going at like the 2-3 turn. Just has been incredibly consistent every single year. Is this like a quarterback concern that he's here at this spot? It seems low for Mike Evans to me.
Chris Godwin's a free agent.
So you're making the case he should be higher as well.
Mike Evans should be going higher, yeah.
Much higher.
Yeah, I don't think the beats there don't think Godwin's going to go anywhere, but I don't disagree with that. I mean, one of Gronk or Antonio Brown probably won't be back either. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to have as much competition next year. He didn't have an amazing year this year, but I agree.
He had a pretty good year. He wasn't like as good as we've seen from Mike Evans, but he hardly fell off the face of the earth. I mean,
yeah, the targets just weren't as strong. He had a couple of those weak games. He just had a lot of touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, touchdowns count. And they were clearly looking for him in the red zone. He was their go-to option. I think Chris Godwin probably is back, but, I mean, he's not signed right now. I would imagine he would have a pretty strong market. Like if you were the Ravens or something, wouldn't you just go all in for Godwin if he gets there?
Yeah. Also, I'm not one to tout running backs in the running back dead zone, but is that a little too much overreaction to Joe Mixon there in the fourth?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, he's signed. He's one of those guys that you got to feel like is going to be back. Like they gave him an extension last year, right? Contracts are so important at this point of the year. I mean, they did. Okay. To Pat's point about Godwin being a free agent, if anything breaks wrong, Evans is locked up. If anything breaks the other way, it would be good for Evans.
The other thing on Mixon is that Giovanni Bernard is signed next year as well. So my guess would be they don't spend like second or third round draft capital on a running back. Maybe they spend a fourth, or maybe they spend a third, but most likely it's status quo.
Yeah, I agree with that. They have good young receivers, a good quarterback. They got to address their offensive line and their defense, most importantly. Like, their D is bad. I think they're going to be a really D-heavy draft this year.
And they actually got some flashes from Samaje Perine, too, to where I wonder if they feel like they don't need to use any draft capital on running backs, at least in the first, 5 rounds.
Yeah.
I tell you what jumps out to me is DeAndre Swift and Antonio Gibson. These are guys that can be, like, I think there's a chance that they're kind of in that Miles Sanders range as we get into August, where they get pushed up into the first round, maybe even like the 107, 108 type of range. To get them in the early third is really nice value. We need to figure out what happens at quarterback with Washington, but there's more than just 1 or 2 quarterbacks this year. They could end up addressing that position. And DeAndre Swift now, I mean, he's basically in that Alvin Kamara role, and they just brought in the Saints assistant coach. Like, I would rather have DeAndre Swift than Jonathan Taylor.
Okay, here we go.
I think it's a lot closer than it seems. I think it's a great call to point out DeAndre Swift at 301. I think that's probably one of the best values in the first 3 rounds. He definitely shouldn't be going after Aaron Jones. Jones could be back with Green Bay. Could be. If he's not, he's going to probably be in a good situation. He's going to get probably a decent contract from somebody. But Swift, like, you want to go young at running back. You don't want to pay for past production. Swift is an emerging and showed all the talent in the world. Like, Pat, you look at the expected points over expectation, rushing and receiving. I'm sure he was very positive in both. He was very explosive this year. That all bodes so well for him. And then to your point, they bring in a new coach who coached Alvin Kamara, and you got to love the receiving potential going forward. Like, you're not going to probably have the committee that he dealt with this year that Patricia liked. Patricia's gone.
Right. And you are going to have a committee in Indianapolis. I mean, they still have Hines there next year. They're talking about how they're, maybe going to bring Mack back, which would be awful. And then he finished the season very strong. Jonathan Taylor's a really, really good running back, but he got Houston twice. He got Jacksonville. That stretch was inflated. I think we're bringing that into our, he's not a top 5 pick, guys. Jonathan Taylor's not a top 5 pick. He's a committee running back. He just doesn't belong there. And I think DeAndre Swift is probably going like a round too late.
I'm messaging Davis right now. Jonathan Taylor is not a top 5 pick. I'm sorry, guys. End quote. Pat Curran.
He's a lot like Nick Chubb was last year. He's like almost exactly like Nick Chubb was last year. We know the talent's great. I was projecting Nick Chubb to lead the NFL in rushing this year, I think, or at least be close with Henry. I think I had them 1-2, but you still had Kareem Hunt there, and that's Pat's point about Nyheim Hines. And a big reason I was so high on Taylor this year was Phillip Rivers' lengthy history of throwing to his running backs, including in the red zone. He's done that his whole career, and he threw some touchdowns to the backs this year. And you're not going to have that next year. Phillip Rivers just retired. He doesn't have a quarterback. A bad second round pick. To your point,
yeah. I mean, you're taking the guy in the top 5, and we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. It's needlessly risky. And you've got Swift, going in the 301. So I would rather have Taylor than Gibson, but price adjusted, I think Gibson is also a better pick.
You've sold me. I'd rather have Swift than Taylor too. And I'm a huge Taylor fan.
Yes, I love it. If I've got Ben Gretsch going against Taylor,
he's Chubb from last year. And Chubb, I didn't want to take it like 206 last year, 208. I didn't like the upside and the value. And that's probably where Taylor settles in second round. Swift, to your point, probably also settles in maybe in the higher second round. He might settle in higher than Taylor at the end of the day. I don't know.
So I have gotten word from Davis. Davis says, it'll depend on their QB situation. I should have taken Kelsey, I think, but the man is 32 years old.
Kelsey's like still going. He's still like probably the best pick in the FFPC format, and Davis is out.
Yeah.
Is this our draft? Oh, look at that.
Yeah, we're popping. So Chris at the turn, like a true zero RB boy, Diggs and Hopkins. Yeah, we'll probably get another pick in here at this rate tonight.
Although 10 was an auto pick, probably isn't around and didn't have another auto pick set. So
no, because what we picked on the I see what you're saying. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to see anything. Who's the biggest value relative to what was? So someone took Michael Thomas pretty early there.
Where are you guys at on Michael Thomas?
Doesn't feel like a fun guy to draft.
I have no idea. I was a lot happier before he had the the game that just before he got shut out last week and killed all my DFS lineups.
I'll be right back.
He feels a little bit to me like Odell Beckham felt entering the 2020 season, where it's like he just disappointed. Some stuff was changing around him, and you could kind of talk yourself back into it, but you needed the risk to be baked in a little bit too. So I like him better than I liked Odell Beckham entering 2020, but I want him in the third, I think. In the early third.
There's a lot of people saying they're out on him. I think the idea that he's done is not accurate. He's older than you think, but Thomas will have two arguments in his favor. One, okay, so he's going to be 28. Actually, he is older than you think. He came in the league pretty old.
Mm-hmm.
But one argument in his favor is he's always earned targets at an exceptionally high rate. He's a very good route runner, right? And he did that with Teddy Bridgewater anyway.
That's true.
He didn't do that a lot this year, and that's hard to understand. But that brings the second argument. He had a high ankle sprain. Like, nobody does well after high ankle sprains at any position. It's been one of the most debilitating injuries for players to come back from same season and be productive. He struggled after that. For a guy who runs a lot of short area routes and relies on, his agility to some extent, it wouldn't be that surprising to me. I mean, like, watching him try to create separation on that pass Breeze threw an interception on, where he faked inside and went outside on Sunday, and Breeze tried to float it over his shoulder. He created no separation. He's fading away. It's man, that's not Michael Thomas used to get a yard of separation on that route. That's what I remember from last year. He broke the receptions record last year because he was so open on that route. Those little option routes, in-out routes, 5-7 yards and in from the line of scrimmage of air yards. And he wasn't creating that separation down the stretch. It really could have just been injury related. And so, yeah, Breeze is probably gone, but I don't think it's that crazy to see him come back and be a guy who, again, excels at earning a lot of targets and is really good in PPR. That's not that insane. Those will be the arguments for him, but I do agree. He's hard to sort of like
those
that.
are pretty good arguments. I'd be down to take him at our pick. Because, it is just he wasn't healthy. You basically have to just believe he wasn't healthy, and he was, not healthy. So can a guy who was, prior to this year, had one of the best fantasy wide receiver seasons in memory, and then it was surpassed by Adams, but still an incredible season, and then he doesn't have a healthy season. Yeah, the quarterback's changing. I guess what's going to happen with the quarterback? Because if it's Taysom Hill, then I want no parts of Michael Thomas.
That makes it tough.
Yeah, man, it does seem like one of those two where you want to get a deal on him just because the public sentiment is so down.
Yeah.
And just wondering, we're in a weird pocket where it feels like you're paying fair value. Right. And I just want a little more of a discount.
I agree with that. I don't really love taking him at 206, even though I just laid out the pro side of him, especially because the quarterback reason you just said, Pat. And it does feel like if we had to handicap it, it's Taysom Hill as the favorite right now. And I wouldn't feel good about that pick if it was Hill.
Well,
anything else is better, though.
One thing I'll say, and I don't know if you guys said this while I was gone, but his target share with Taysom Hill was absurd. Taysom Hill only had eyes for Michael Thomas.
That's true. Yeah.
It was everyone else, Cook and Sanders took the big hits because he was just doing the one read Michael Thomas and then just done.
But it's tough for a high volume, high target, high reception receiver to have a truly great year in an offense that won't throw 500 times. If Taysom Hill's their quarterback all year, they won't throw 500 times. And I
think it just his ceiling's capped with Taysom Hill.
What? Right. And sorry if you guys already said this, but then what do we? If Winston gets the job, what does that do?
I'd love it.
I'm all in.
Yeah,
on Michael Thomas with Winston.
Yeah. Chris Godwin. It's it's Chris Godwin, but Michael Thomas. Come on.
Okay.
I'm smashing. I'd take Michael Thomas at the 1-2 turn at that point.
In PPR, you're locking in 100 catches if Jameis Winston's the QB.
Davis did take Michael Thomas at the 1-2 turn. We do
hate-
not like Davis's
I hate
picks
these
so much.
picks so bad. Oh my god. I didn't see this. We got someone reading lips here. Did you see Breeze tell Jameis it's his team? Going to be 2019 Godwin all over again. Breeze might need to tell Sean Payton that.
Yeah, unfortunately, Breeze is leaving the NFL and won't have anything to do with it. But I hope he's right.
So let's talk, because it does look like we might get another pick here. The auto drafter's off, and there's just one more pick here. So what are we looking at here? It's basically, do we want to pull the trigger on one of those running backs? The chat's rooting for AJ Brown. We do also have to think about just the structural stuff with how to play these best ball slims as well.
And Jameis is a free agent. He signed a 1-year deal. So, I mean, he could very well come back to the Saints.
And they're in cap hell, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, structurally, we probably want a running back here, although there's some really good wide receivers available. So it's tough. It's tough. But I think we probably really want to take a running back in the next 2 rounds.
My argument would be that there's going to be it's counter to what we typically do in drafts, but we're going to be able to find receiver value into the middle rounds, I think, pretty easily. Particularly when you look at some of the guys that are going in the 4th and 5th round. Like who were we pointing out just now? Sorry, we flipped back to that other.
Yeah.
Like Evans in the 4th, right? And we were talking about. I brought up Sutton at the end of the 5th. Like I think that's a really good value for Sutton.
Shark in the 6th.
DJ Moore in the 4th is
Chark in the 6th with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be easy to do that. I think it's going to be really hard to take running backs in that range. Like look at Chris Carson's going in that range. Kareem Hunt. I mean, or you start taking rookies, and you can, I think, take rookies in that range, but it's going to get sketchy with running backs. Look at the 7th, 8th round, Melvin Gordon, David Johnson. I would not want to be drafting those guys.
No.
2021.
Yeah, I would really, because we're going to start to feel like, oh, crap, we need to draft a running back. And it's like, Chris Carson is a free agent. He just went in the 6th round. Like, it gets really gross. Like, so I think we probably should prioritize getting a running back here.
So we have lots to choose from, right? Because you have Akers, you have Aaron Jones, you have then that Sanders, Swift, Gibson. I assume those would be the guys in the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Not really Aaron Jones for me.
Yeah.
Just because of the situation.
I wouldn't pick him at 206 either. I mean, I don't know if this Enlightenment person watches the show, but I'm really sold on Deandre Swift after Pat's soliloquy a little bit ago.
Yeah, I would be my pick.
I'm good with that. Sorry. So Willis says this is a 2-hour slow draft, and if you plan to do more, give the Discord a heads up. Willis, I did post it in the Discord, but it filled after I did it, so I deleted the post, so people weren't trying to jam it in there. But I did post it in the Discord. We just needed 3 more. We did it at the last second because we knew we wanted to get one of these underway. We might. It looks like we'll just get 2 picks in tonight, so we'll reference it again next week and circle back and see how things shook out. Unless Justin over here, he wants us to just stream this nonstop Truman style show where we just live stream until the draft is over.
At the 3 a.m. Eastern time slot when we're talking kickers again, we're breaking down kicker free agency. We'll have some picks.
Yeah, Belair was upset earlier that we did the slim draft, so we couldn't get a kicker pick in these.
That's a bummer.
So, yeah, I'm definitely on board with DeAndre Swift. Would Gibson be the fallback for you guys? Or I feel like he is interesting to contrast with Akers, who, I had concerns heading into this game Sunday, like, would he be the bell cow in negative scripts? It was pretty clear. He's the dude.
Yeah, I think those are my next 2. I don't know. What do you think, Pat?
I agree. Yeah, I think Akers. It's a team that wants to run the ball a lot, run their entire offense through kind of a bell cow running back, as we saw years back with Gurley. I think that Malcolm Brown will probably be gone, and you'll have Darrell Henderson kind of in a Malcolm Brown type of role. But Akers isn't like a 2-down back. He's a lead back who sometimes doesn't play on passing downs. It's more of like a James Robinson type of situation than a true kind of 2-down, never on the field for third downs like my boy Rojo. So I think Akers is a pretty solid pick here.
Yeah, and I think the reason I would argue him over Gibson, who I love as well, is kind of twofold. One, they never really gave Gibson the full receiving role, and Rivera's back, right? So there's some concern that maybe they bring back McKissick. Maybe they have a similar split next year. And then two, it's just the offense. Like, I think the biggest way to look at running back value, and it's still completely missed for whatever reason, it was missed in DFS last week when Devin Singletary was chalk, is team running back value, team running back production. I talk about in signals, high value touches, team running back, high value touches. It's so important. The Bills are a terrible team for running back value. So yes, Zach Moss gets hurt, and our immediate thought is Devin Singletary is this cheap now potential workhorse. But what we saw was they just threw way more. They don't use their running backs. It's not an important part of their offense. And then the other side of team running back value is like, well, how many scoring chances does your team present to your offense or to your running back? Antonio Gibson, I mean, Washington's decent. They're on the move. I think their D's good. Their offensive line is okay. They get a quarterback in there. They could continue to get better, but I still think the Rams are a lock to be a better they're a better bet to be an above average scoring team next year and have more touchdown opportunities for Akers.
Yeah.
Am I crazy? I mean, Akers over Zeke is so easy, right?
So easy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's crazy to me that in back-to-back drafts, that's not how it went. That seems wild to me.
Generally, and you're not always going to be able to achieve this, but I do try to draft the best running back on his team.
Yeah, especially in the first round. But sometimes you got to take the second round.
But sometimes you're going to draft, a guy who's not the best running back on his own team in the first round. So,
yeah, and who's 27, just started breaking down. He can bounce back and have a good year next year. That is a falling knife. That's not something you want to catch in the first round.
Where would you take Zeke?
Late third? I don't know. I'm not even there.
I'm with you. I like if we had redrafted even halfway through this past season, I feel like he would have been like a late third pick. I don't know. I don't even know what the case is for him. I mean, he was getting the full work in doing nothing with it, even when the offense was looking good with Dak, right?
And
you're right.
There are just so many running backs. He's actually only going to be 26 next year, but there are so many running backs that have these peaks that are several seasons. And it's not like he was bad this year. He had 8 touchdowns. He had 1,300 total yards. But they just never regain that. They never regain that efficiency. They never regain that peak ability. And it's like I say this all the time, don't pay for pass production at running back because it's a hard position to play, to take the type of beating he's taken, 300-plus touches basically every season of his career, except for a couple seasons where he's missed some time. This guy has been very, very good for a long time, but this is when you turn the page and you take the second-year guy who's going to be the next Zeke. You take Deandre Swift. You take Cam Akers. You move on.
There's not you can't build skill at the running back position in the same way that you see wide receivers do it. Like maybe a wide receiver's physical ability is tailing off a little bit in their mid to late 20s, but they are now so technically proficient at what they do that it doesn't matter. It's more than made up for that by the added skill. At running back, you're kind of capped out on your running back skills pretty early, and it's just you have that raw athleticism still. And once that goes, and you have a guy like Tony Pollard behind you who does have that raw athleticism, it's a huge problem. At this point, Tony Pollard should be starting for the Cowboys, and they may figure that out in the middle of next season, in which case drafting Zeke even in the 4th round is a disaster.
Huge risk of that next year, of Pollard taking a way bigger chunk than what we expected prior to 2020 or 2019. Zeke may never have the same type of role again.
Pat, lot of Rojo jokes in the chat. Let's get your true 2021 take. Where should he go in drafts?
Well, let's see. So we know that at this point he is locked out of third downs. Like that has just been a feature of this offense. No matter what happens, he is locked out of those passing downs. He can get some receptions on early downs, but not enough to where you feel great about it. I mean, it's really going to be 1 to 2. It's also a weakness of his game. You see him out there. Like, you ever like, I was a camp counselor and you're trying to wrangle all these kids and like, there'd be like one kid kind of off, like doing his own little thing. That's like what Rojo looks like when he runs a route. Like, he just looks like he's like remembering this little dance he's supposed to do, but it's like, I don't know what you're doing. So I don't think at this point, I don't think he's going to really expand his role as a pass catcher. He looks awesome as a rusher to me. I think he's a very, very good early down rusher. But when you have a guy that's limited to that role, you want to be really careful about where you're taking him. I think the 7th round, though, is still pretty decent value. That's where that guy starts to become interesting, I'll say. So I think getting him in the 7th round is fine. But up into the 6th, I think at that point you gotta lay off. So I would say the 702 range is exactly where he should be going.
That's the new counselor, the true counselor, the one with the resume.
Rojo's a contract year guy as well. So I mean, I agree with everything Pat just said. I don't tend to like that type of back. He's been very good as a runner though, and he's only been getting better, and he's in his contract year in a way that I think Tampa will be like, we want to get something out of him before we let him walk, sort of, because they haven't really done a whole lot with him. Or that's the upside. Like I could see him having a 250 plus carry season and not catching.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm probably going to talk myself into a mistake for sure. because you do have some upside of a clear lead back. I think the problem is we don't know if they're going to sign Fournette again cheaply, in which case that's really gross. But if he looks like the solid lead back, but we know he's capped in his role, then the 6th round does make sense, I think, because you do have upside for him to turn in kind of like a Nick Chubbian type of performance. I mean, he's looked awesome at times. Struggled with injury, struggled with COVID. So
let me see if I can have you watch a clip and maybe bump his ADP up around.
I still think you got to be careful. Don't take him any earlier than the 3rd round.
Once Zeke is off the board, then you could take Rojo.
Yeah, I would take Rojo over Zeke. But.
Would you? Is it Rojo or Zeke? That's a good question.
I mean, if I'm going to take a limited running back, I at least want him to be explosive. Give me Rojo.
And that's a guy who, to all the points I just made about Zeke, like I don't touch running backs that could be on their downturn. Rojo could still be, building. He was a 21-year-old rookie. I mean, he's only 23 or 24 right now.
Pat, do you want me to block Josh for this comment?
I believe his name's Joe.
Joe. Well, I mean, when you slander Rojo,
yeah, Joe's got to go.
Okay,
get out of here, Joe.
Ronald Jones is 23 until August. He turns 24 right before next season. Guys,
speaking of which, I do have to, we mentioned Visca. Shout out to our guy, Josh Kronz, sent me the Visca shirt. Been rocking it today. Beautiful, beautiful shirt. LaVisca fucking Chenault. Thank you, Josh. Very nice of you. Where, let's see. Has Visca gone in this draft, Ben? I don't.
Chat's got to be on that.
Yeah. Okay. 8th round.
8th round. 801 to Davis. That's right. We said that at the top.
Oh yeah, Dave. What do you think about his draft value?
I think it's a good spot. I like him a lot next year. I was hoping when we were talking about him a week or two ago, I was hoping we'd maybe get him in the 10th in the summer and into next year. I think we still are going to see that. 801 to Davis. Davis is a Chenault guy. I don't think honestly, I don't even know that he should be going ahead of. It's close, but like Tyler Boyd, Deebo Samuel later in the 8th, I like both those guys too. Still,
Yeah.
There's still some good value in that range.
Yeah, where did Tyler Boyd in the 8th is an insane value.
Him and then Deebo right behind him. Deebo in the 8th, like Deebo's not injury prone, but Deebo's really good. Like,
where did T. Higgins go?
Oh wow, early 4th or no, late 4th,
right behind Terry McLaurin. Whew.
Wow, I
mean, it's fun to look at where these guys fit in now.
It is. I can't believe that Davis took Zeke at 112. He hates Zeke.
Davis.
I have no idea what he did with that one. He did. I did see he had done a write-up and he was like, I hate all my picks. So
yeah, what's he doing?
I'll tell you what probably Davis does. He probably just like on his phone, just like quickly makes a pick and then immediately regrets it.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to get a Davis impression there. I'm disappointed.
What do we think about, like, what's the deal with Will Fuller? Because this seems a little late to me.
That's rich, man.
I think it's rich.
You think it's rich? Just because
of that? Playing?
Does it matter?
And
yes, it does matter.
The suspension thing is not good to have on your resume. He wasn't even going that high this year, and I understand he had a really good year this year. And I don't know. I was sort of, I guess, expecting that to a degree. He's always been good when he's been healthy, but what changed? He still was good. He just stayed healthy, but then he got suspended too. So now we have injury risk, and we have the stats that have been shown that once you get suspended, you're exceedingly likely to be suspended again at some point, which ideally would never happen for him. It was just a performance enhancing thing. Hopefully, he never has these issues again. But I think there's a little bit of reason to be concerned.
Did he get all 6 games in before the end of the year?
I think so.
It will carry over into the first game of 2021.
Yeah,
he's going to miss 1 game in the season, and we don't know where he's going to be. So,
if he's back in Houston, we don't know if Deshaun Watson's going to be in Houston.
Yeah, good point.
Do you see who just went?
Rashod Bateman in the 13th. My God.
Do you like Bateman more than Moore? I haven't really looked into it.
I like Bateman more than Moore.
Is Rondale Moore the guys that like 5'3"?
He's Moore's like 5'8" or 5'9".
Isn't he the new like DJ Moore? Is that the guy whose highlights I've seen that looks just like DJ Moore?
Ben, you got to watch Bateman, man.
All right. Let me pull up the videos that Pat sent me about Bateman.
Let's do it.
Pat was like, dude, you gotta watch this.
I keep getting Moore and Bateman mixed up. They're both Big 10 guys, right? Like, isn't Moore Purdue and Bateman's Minnesota? They're both in the Big 10.
That's right. That's right.
I keep getting them mixed up.
Is that up on the screen? Yeah. This is normally earlier. Last year, I saw my first LaVisca highlight. I believe it was in like early June. So I'm ahead of the curve this year.
I like these best balls because I can pepper Pete with my rookie takes.
I know. Yeah, I was trying to keep up with all your rookie takes.
How sick is that catch?
It's a catch.
It's a sick catch, dude. I'm literally gonna read you the notes that I sent Pete so that I don't have to think.
That's I mean, one highlight shouldn't move him up too many rounds. But I want to.
Here's the thing. It's not just that highlight. He's a true junior. He has a 35% career market share of yards. He had a 36% dominator rating in 2019 as a true sophomore. He didn't play the full season this year, but he had a 47% DR in that 5-game span. The other thing that's interesting is that he played alongside Tyler Johnson in 2019. Tyler Johnson, obviously, like not a highly, highly regarded NFL prospect, but a really, really good college wide receiver. He's still popped. And then ESPN has him as their top 10, their 10th overall prospect in the class. So I think he has a real, like, good chance of being a first-round pick. He's 6'2", 209. To me, he looks like a dude who's going to be like a 7th, 8th round pick. So anything after that range is just kind of free money because he's a great prospect.
Especially if he goes in the first round. Like, yeah.
Yeah. If he goes in the second round, I'm into it.
Where's Moore going to go?
Rondale Moore, I think in probably the second round.
Here, actually, this helps me, Pat. Where would he have been? Just not results based on the season. Where would he have gone prospect wise in the 2020 wide receiver class? Like, in what grouping or level would he be on with those guys as prospects?
So, like, in the numbers that I look at, I had CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson as like the top tier. Actually, I was looking at some stuff, and I think Jerry Jeudy was maybe not in the same tier as those guys, but you could put Jerry Jeudy in there too if you want. So in that top 4, he would belong with those guys at a minimum. But I think if he like tests really well, you could argue he's a better prospect than all of them.
Wow. Okay. All right. Making it move
if he goes in the first round. If he goes in the first round.
You have him ahead of Chase?
No. Chase again. I mean, I think Chase looks like,
and you don't really like
Amari Cooper level prospect.
You don't really like Devonta Smith. So Chase is Amari Cooper level. Bateman could be better than the entire 2020 class, and you're not as high on Devonta Smith. Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Waddle.
Where does Moore come in?
I want to see this Rondale Moore.
I have Rondale Moore rated 4th.
Okay.
But again, part of that goes to draft position. Like if Moore goes in the first round, I think he's probably a better prospect than
Jalen Moore hasn't played a lot in the last year. So here's the deal with, I mean, Pat probably has all the market share numbers, but he had 114 catches as a true freshman. Am I reading this right? 1,258 yards, 12 TDs as a true freshman in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And then hasn't played a lot of games the last 2 years. He had 4 games in 3 games. He must have got a medical red shirt because they both say sophomore on Sports Reference.
He's a little guy.
He's like, yeah, but he's physical.
And his yards per route run were awesome over the last 2 years, but on really small samples. But it's tough because he's small, so it's hard to say that he has a huge ceiling. But like numbers wise, he looks like he has a huge ceiling.
And his freshman year was a really good dominant rating, I assume.
Yeah. Broke out as a freshman.
I agree with Eric. 5'8" feels generous.
Yeah, but like Steve Smith. Come on, guys.
No, I'm not knocking him for the height at all. I just think he's definitely short.
I think you can survive in today's NFL with the lack of I mean, this is a take that I've had for a few years, but ever since I've mentioned this before, end of 2014, they started, doing more with hand checking and defensive holding and illegal contact. I think it has made it so that we used to see in models that weight was really significant. I think it's less significant and size is less significant. There was not a lot of small receivers that had good careers in the NFL prior to the last 5 years, but we've had several now in the last few years. I mean, like Tyreek Hill comes to mind. T.Y. Hilton led the NFL in receiving one of the years right after they changed that rule. There's a few more smaller ones that have done well since then.
And
I think you want to pay more attention to weight than height. Obviously, 5'8" is a bit of an outlier, but he is he's listed at 181. It's not like he's 165.
They're using him very, very close to the line of scrimmage. This is like the Deebo Samuel negative air yards workload here.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, Ben, you were saying his freshman year dominator rating was probably pretty good. It was. He had a 37% dominator rating.
As a true freshman.
As a true freshman.
That's really good.
Played 13 games that year, so it's not some low sample size BS. He also had 114 receptions, 1,258 yards, and 12 touchdowns. So it's not, one of these Georgia Tech, Stephen Hills type of things where he just dominates a really, really small offense. Right. His raw stats were awesome. He dominated his offense as a true freshman. Rondale Moore can play for sure.
And it's funny because dominant rating doesn't even take into account receptions, but I'm looking at it right now. 11.0 yards per reception, which isn't strong. But so my point is the 114 receptions don't even show up. This guy could be a PPR stud someday.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you want to pay attention a little bit to where he lands. A creative OC would be really, really nice.
Yeah.
I want to see some Kyle Pitts highlights.
If he's going to be this year's Visca, dude. If he's a little bit forgotten about.
Yeah, I think he could be this year's Visca. I actually have a couple other guys who I think could be.
We gotta make a Rondale Moore clip.
I could see him becoming a ship chasing folk hero. 1 year from now, we'll all be wearing Rondale Moore shirts.
There's Kyle Pitts is. I mean, the way he moves, it's like he's like a wide receiver.
Yeah.
This dude looks like a grown ass man.
He looks like T. Higgins. He's like he's T. Higgins with weight on.
You're right. He does. His build is super interesting. Oh my god.
Yeah,
I love that the show has just evolved into us watching highlights. I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
It's the off season, guys.
Every time I've seen highlights of this dude, I've been like, "Ooh, he looks like he's going to be an NFL player." I mean, put a little weight on that frame. Ooh.
Oh yeah, and I kind of like that he's a little light for a tight end because it means I'll just use him more like a wide receiver.
Yeah.
How tall is he, Pat?
Let me look.
I would guess 6'6".
He is 6'6". Nice guess. 240.
You know who
on the
he
lighter side.
I couldn't figure it out. I don't know if it's a perfect comp, but and this is ridiculous, but he reminds me a little bit of Calvin Johnson. He's big and lanky. He doesn't look like he's running full speed at full stride, but he's fast. He's faster than everyone in these clips.
Calvin Johnson was 6'5", 240, so it's like a very similar build.
That's the guy that I think I was like, who's his running? Like he's fast, but he doesn't look like he's even running hard. Like, who is this reminding me of?
Do you guys have a dream spot for him? We did check the Patriots fit. It seems pretty good. Anywhere else?
Chargers.
What? They're loaded with tight ends. We got
Hunter Henry's a free agent.
Okay, well, what about XFL hero Donald Parham? I mean,
why you got to knock Donald Parham?
He's good, Donald Parham.
He's good, Donald Parham.
Oh, wow. You just got fired from ETR.
Don't tell Adam.
I played a lot of XFL DFS, and Donald Parham is a hero. I want that on the record.
No, I know. I played him in NFL DFS, and he came through for me the second week.
I wish we had XFL this offseason.
Yeah. Someone was talking about weight being a problem for Devonta Smith. They're correct. He's 174. Devonta Smith is going to be a really overrated prospect. Maybe overrated's the wrong word because I feel like the fantasy community is probably going to be mostly in agreement. But like, just in terms of where he gets drafted by the NFL, he's going to be a very weak fantasy prospect.
He was amazing this year, and last year he had significant competition. He had Jerry Jeudy and Waddle.
Yeah,
Waddle better than him?
So the thing with Watt, I mean, it comes down to the fact that Devonta Smith played 4 years. He has a career market share of 27%, which is like not great. He did have a breakout season, but it was his senior year, which you kind of toss out the window because those senior year breakouts really don't mean shit. So, you know, he didn't really like pop on anything.
But didn't he
over the course of his career, he wasn't that impressive.
He outproduced both first round receivers last year, right?
Yeah, although both those guys didn't do a ton as rookies.
Fair.
So
that wasn't a breakout season, 1,286 yards, 14 touchdowns.
This season was, but it was his senior year.
His junior year wasn't 1,256 and 14 he had.
No. Let me see. It might have been close.
So he had significantly more yards than Ruggs, almost twice as many.
He had a 28% dominated rating as a junior. So he was close, but that's not a breakout.
Okay. But that was on a team with 2 other first round and potentially 3 other first round talents because Waddle was there too.
Yeah. If you give him credit for that, it helps, but it's still not.
Beckham. I'm not saying it's going to be Odell Beckham, but it's kind of. I mean, the fact that he won the Heisman is obviously promising. It's a little bit like that because they were so loaded. I remember with Jeudy and Ruggs, Russell Clay, who's amazing at this stuff, was talking about how Alabama last year had, and I remember going and checking this. They went 11-2. They lost 2 games. They didn't win the title 2019. but those are the only 2 games they played that finished within like 20 points. Like every one of their 11 wins was a blowout, and they didn't even have to throw in the second half. And so his point was like, some of these stats for these guys, again, we usually don't add a ton of context. You can get into trouble doing that, but the Alabama team last year basically had 2 games that were even competitive. And when you have, I don't know, I think that's an interesting point.
Well, here's the best thing I'll say for him is that, to your point on the 2019 competition, he had his yards per route run in 2019 was 3.52, and that's a 1.5 better than the team as a whole. So he was elite from a yards per route run perspective while playing alongside Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs, who was still performing really, really strong. Better, a lot better than his teammates, even though his teammates both went in the first round. So that's pretty impressive. And then his yards per route run this year was 4.39, which is absurd. And he was way, way better than his teammates.
So he didn't even run that many routes, is what you're telling. Like in 2019, he had a 28% dominant rating, but he didn't. They were rotating 4 receivers. He was elite from a yards per route runs perspective.
He was elite from a yards per route run perspective. So the lack of a breakout could be fooling you a bit. The lack of career market share could be fooling you a bit. I still think that he's not on the level of, or not even close to the level of like Chase and Bateman. On draft position, maybe you could argue if you're going to give him credit for stuff he didn't do in the numbers, but you could, make a case that he deserves credit for, then you could argue he should be above like Waddle and Moore. But the issue again is the size thing. He's 174 pounds, so that's another red flag.
Yeah,
so,
but I would say he's significantly better than Ruggs was last year as a prospect. Even though Ruggs had first round draft capital, there were some significant production concerns, right?
Yeah, but Ruggs is at least a true junior, and he tested awesome, and he went high in the first. He was the first wide receiver taken. So the ceiling on those guys has been pretty high. They're classic boom bust prospects, Henry Ruggs, and looking maybe like he's on the bust side of that now. But I think as a pure prospect, I mean, his ceiling was extremely high. You just didn't know if he had it because he was so raw.
So would you take, if you were ranking the 2 classes together, you would take Ruggs over Smith?
Purely as a prospect, yeah.
Interesting.
Like knowing what I know now,
yeah,
I think I would knock Ruggs down. But just heading in, if I could,
because he was in early to clear.
Yeah,
early to clear is significant.
Do you think
it's very significant?
Do you think Smith will go as high as Ruggs did?
I don't think so. I don't think he's regarded as highly as Ruggs ended up going. Ruggs, of course, made a pretty big surge. People didn't think he'd be the first one.
Going in the top 5 picks. He won the Heisman.
Well, let me pull up where ESPN
what was I saw Quinnen Williams, the Jets D lineman, was saying the Jets should not take a quarterback at 2 and should take Devonta Smith.
You're right. ESPN has him ranked 4th. So yeah, he might even go higher. If he goes 4th, I'm not going to own any Devonta Smith because then I assume he's going to be a top 5 dynasty pick, right? Top 5 rookie pick.
I think he probably would be. He won the Heisman. People are going to get excited about that.
What you do as a senior is just meaningless.
I'm more or less asking because, but again, he wasn't bad as a junior. 28% in an offense with a ton of guys, and you said his yards per run were elite. So it's still a late breakout, but I'm going to count his junior year as a breakout year. I'm gonna put a little asterisk next to it. But I was sort of asking, I was hoping that maybe he'd be a late first rounder in dynasty picks, and then it's like a little bit more interesting to grab him there.
So if you just give him credit for breaking out last year and give him credit for the career market share where I won it, which he probably would have gotten to if he had actually had a breakout last year, then I think he looks pretty similar to Ruggs as a prospect last year. He looks similar to Marquise Brown 2 years ago. Just looking for guys who pop. These are numbers wise, although Marquise Brown is similar weight. Yeah, I kind of better than Brandon Ayuk. So you could talk yourself into him, but you're talking yourself into a guy with the numbers, and then you have to go, oh yeah, he weighs 174 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's just not ideal.
Well, I say we wrap things up by solidifying what our second round pick is going to be here. We're going to have plenty more prospect talk, all that good stuff on the channel throughout the off season. And are we committed to Deandre Swift here?
I'm down for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then are we saying Akers is the fallback? Or Gibson?
Yeah, I'm good with either of those guys.
Pull up the other board real quick. Who are other running backs that we're considering here?
So we now waived Aaron Jones. Eckler's gone. So it'd be Miles Sanders would be the other one. Yeah.
Interesting. I think I'd rather go with the upside second-year guys. I don't think Sanders is a bad pick.
No.
Josh Jacobs, probably not a bad pick. Probably not a guy I want to take in this spot.
I don't think Sanders is a bad pick, but new coaching staff is a bit of a concern.
Yeah. Did Chubb go? Chubb went in ours.
Yeah, Chubb just went.
Okay.
Who would be, of those guys, who is the one most likely to come back to us in the third? It's unlikely, but who would have that chance? Gibson?
Yeah, probably Gibson.
I think Gibson.
Yeah.
And then you have Dobbins went past there, and I don't think he would be a bad pick in the third either. It'd be kind of interesting to start tight end, running back, and then hammer all these wide receiver values that we love through the eighth.
I was definitely playing my share of Dobbins down the stretch in DFS, but I mean, we got to be worried about the pass catching, right? Like, it's just not going to happen in that offense.
Yeah, no, it's not. But I mean, the touchdown equity's decently high.
Is Gus going away?
No.
No, but I do think you have to be one. You look at week 17 was a big week, and then you have to be optimistic about the trade-off with the pass catching is that all those running backs have massively high efficiency because of Lamar Jackson's threat as a runner, and that's just something we've seen on all running quarterbacks. But Jackson, more than any, demands that teams stay on the edge and just leave the middle of the field open on inside runs. It's not hard to project him for over 5 yards a carry. It's going to sound a little bit crazy, and I don't actually project a lot of guys that high. But what did he have this year? He had 6 yards a carry this year. I mean, it wouldn't be hard to see him post 6 yards a carry next year. So from a yardage perspective, you hope that he runs for a ton of yards, basically, is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And then catches enough balls. I mean, that's how Mark Ingram got there. I mean, he was RB8 last year. He had 1,000 rushing yards on 202 carries. He caught 26 balls. He had 15 total touchdowns because it was a good offense. I mean, you need the touchdowns to be on your side as well, obviously.
I think one thing we do have going for us as we move into the later rounds is that we can just take a bunch of shots at running back. Like I kind of like the idea of going running back here, then going wide receiver, and then trying to come back for running backs. Can you go to that other board?
Yeah.
Because there's guys here like Gainwell, who went in the 10th. He's a really solid pass catching weapon out of Memphis. Undersized dude, 191 pounds, but he took the year off. I'm thinking he probably tried to gain some weight. Like if he, weighs in at like 202, I'm in. Like he looks like he could be an undersized pass catching guy, kind of like Aaron Jones style running back. I love that value in the 10th. Chuba Hubbard doesn't have much pass catching ability, but he's a guy that people were extremely high on last year, had a bit of a down season. There's just dudes in this range, rookies in this range that could pop off, and you're going to get to take a bunch of them. Kenyan Drake, by the way, went in the 11th here. He's a free agent, but if he gets brought back to Arizona, that's pretty nice in the 11th.
He went after Chase Edmonds. Davis took Edmonds at 10:01, and then Drake went around later.
Which I think makes sense because you don't know if Drake's back. But I think there's just like some of the uncertainty that we were talking about early on really works in our favor later in the draft.
That's fair.
So we want to set ourselves up to take advantage of that.
My only issue with Gainwell in the 10th is just, I mean, if Fournette's still on the board there, I think you got to take him.
Oh boy. All right. I think we got to go.
I was hoping that would be more triggering for you. All right, guys. This has been fun. Like I said, we're still figuring out our off-season plan, but we're going to be drafting. We're going to be watching YouTube highlights. We're going to be talking prospects.
We're going to be silently watching highlights the whole offseason.
You know what? I feel like I have a pretty good gauge for what I think people actually enjoy it. Let us know. Do you guys like it when we watch highlights? I think it's oddly enjoyable. I could be wrong, but I think people like it.
You're going to watch the highlights anyway. You might as well watch us watch the highlights.
They do like it.
All right. Yeah, we will check back in on this draft by next week. Who knows? We might even be done with it. We'll have some thoughts on that.
And you.
Sorry, Joe. I am the one who bans. And what else do we got? We'll check it. We didn't talk about our FFPC teams. We'll check in on them again next week, see if we have any sweats after the conference championship weekend. Do you guys have any other plugs, any other stuff you guys are doing this week leading up to conference championships?
Nope. Ben had a really good article on his, Substack. Still churning out great content.
Yeah, definitely subscribe to that. Ben has committed to doing an article a day, which I thought seemed ambitious, but I mean, if anyone can do it, it's Ben Gresh.
Goes out at 3 a.m. Wakes me up every day.
Yeah. It was on the free one though, so yeah. I mean, that's one thing that I think people think it's a paid thing. It was for stealing signals during the season. I think most of my off-season stuff will be free. If you're subbing to the paid one, go ahead and cancel that. But yeah, this was a free.
Don't cancel it.
Free article for you guys to just a thought provoker, I guess. I don't know.
All right, guys. We love you. We appreciate you. We care about you. We hope that you are successful in every endeavor that you might have in your life right now. Please subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, everything I said is null and void. For Ben Gretsch, Pat Crane, for little Rondale Moore, this has been Chip Chasing. We'll see you guys next week.